Hello, I'm John Paul and we're here at Rimmer Brothers in Lincoln today to change the near side front lower suspension arm on a Range Rover L322. Before we send it up on the ramp and jack it up, we're just going to slacken off the wheels to make it easier for ourselves. Well, the wheel not slackened off, we're now going to send the ramp up, jack it up and take off the wheel. This is the suspension arm we're going to be changing. It's located here, the chassis and the ball joint. It has a ball joint at one end, rubber bush at the other end, and this little lug here is where they link to the levelling valve. So that's the first thing we need to take off. Take off the link to the levelling valve. Now these do snap, so you have to be very careful or just have to buy a new one. We're going to remove the levelling link first, so you'll need a 9mm spanner to hold on the back of the ball, and a 10mm socket to undo the nut off the other side. These are very difficult, you know, and they do snap off regularly, but you know, just soak it with WD-40 first and then just give it a good go. Now we're going to remove the outer ball joint, so you need a 21mm spanner to take that top nut off. You can't get a windy gun on here, so you'll have to use a spanner. Spray it with WD-40 first, and as you're undoing it, just work it side to side, because what you don't want to do is for the shank to come loose in the arm. With the nut removed, we now need to remove the ball joint from the lower arm. Now this is a tapered shank. There's several ways of getting this out. Number one, you can just hit the arm with a hammer. Number two, you can buy a purpose-built ball joint splitter. Or another way is a ball joint fork. It goes in between the ball joint and the arm and to not knock out the shank. And with the ball joint split from the shank, we're now going to take the nut and bolt out from the inner of the arm where it mounts to the subframe. With a 21mm socket and a 21mm spanner, if you undo the nut and bolt, you get all the way out and then knock the bolt out from the arm. Remove the bolt and lower the arm down out of its place, and we're ready to put the new one in. Before we refit the arm, we just want to clean up the inner bolt on the wire wheel or the wire brush, put some copper grease on it, and we're prepared, ready to fit the arm back now. So we'll put the inner bush in first, the nut and bolt in it, lift it up into the ball joint, and then we'll tighten everything up. Okay, we've tightened up the inner nut and bolt. Now we're going to tighten the nut on the ball joint. So get your 21mm spanner, tighten it up. If the ball joint spins in the arm, which it often does, just use a little jack to press it up and put some pressure on the taper, and that'll allow you to tighten the nut back up. Right, we're now going to replace the levelling arm. So pop it back through the hole in the lower arm, put your nut back on, tighten it up. Don't over tighten it too much, it's only a little M6 bolt. And then we're going to replace the wheel. Before we replace the wheel, we're just going to clean up the spigot. With an alloy wheel, they do tend to corrode, so just clean away all the corrosion. And once it's nice and clean, put some copper grease around it and do the same to the inner of the wheel. We'll now put the wheel back on, put your nuts back on and tighten it up to 140 Newton meters.